Good evening, everyone. We're here for City Council meeting. It is Monday, December 2nd, 2019, and we'll start the meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom, Modrick, Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury, Evans, Drew. We have a quorum.
Hey, thank you. And I'm not sure if we have an invocator tonight. Oh, we do. Oh, Scott Ingman wearing his disguise right in front of us. I swear you weren't there 2 minutes ago. Scott, okay, so we'll have an invocation now by Scott Ingman of Black Hills Habitat for Humanity, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. God of all creation, we come to you on this day with thankfulness in our hearts for your continued generosity toward us. With the provision of the moisture and the snow we've received, we thank you. We appreciate the health and the strength that we have to be here this evening. We thank you, and we pray for each and every member of the Rapid City City Council that they would be emboldened with wisdom, conviction, and courage as they meet tonight. Courage to do what is right for the members of our community, understanding for the views and perspectives of those who might disagree, and wisdom to know the difference. I ask that you would bless Rapid City with your shalom, your peace, so that we might be a community where everyone feels empowered to live full lives and to pursue their dreams. We ask these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And now for the adoption of the agenda. This is a time when the City Council may adopt the agenda as written, or they can make certain alterations to it. So would there be a motion from the council?
So moved.
Motion to adopt by Armstrong, second by Drury. All in favor of adoption of this agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Starting off, we have Richie Nordstrom, who is going to give us a short presentation on his trip to the South Dakota Municipal League Conference.
Well, if the gremlins are behaving themselves tonight, we'll have a successful slideshow for you. I attended the South Dakota Municipal League Conference in October of this year, and it was quite an interesting event. And if you don't get the chance to see all these slides that I'm going to present tonight, please get a hold of me afterwards, because there's a lot of information here, and I'm not going to go that deep of a dive into all of these slides. And I would encourage anyone that's interested in going to the next summit or conference next October. I believe it's in Spearfish, and I would encourage as many as you that could attend to possibly attend. I just want to introduce just a few things about the South Dakota Municipal League when I was there in Aberdeen. This is the, at that time was the president of the Municipal League, Pauline Sumption, and now she's the past. And I'll get into that a little bit more later on, who replaced her. And then the executive director is Yvonne Taylor. That lady is very busy, and she has got a lot of help from a large staff and this support from the 2018-2019 Board of Directors. Just a couple of people that I want to point out on this very busy slide is that Debbie Hausman is the finance director for Lake Andes, who will be taking over, or has taken over, as the president of the South Dakota Municipal League, started in October. In fact, I was watching the change of the gavel up there. and a nice little ceremony. And then notice that your first vice president is now in line for the president next year if he chooses to do so, and that's your mayor, Steve Ellender. Moving across the board is over on District 9 is where we are at in the South Dakota Municipal League. Is Lori Woodruff is the finance officer for Custer, and she's the president of District 9, which is part of the Municipal League. And if you get a chance to go to that, I would encourage that. Approximately in April is when that'll be taking place. And then this is the league staff contacts and some of the most important people within the municipal league that you don't see that often, but they do a lot of behind-the-scenes work on there. And I won't go through all of these folks here, but I've got all the contact information for them. And then the new one for me, they've been around for a while, but the new one for me is the South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance. And I thought it was an interesting presentation that we got from them. And I believe I got a little bit information about that in the next slide. Oh, let me back up one more. And then affiliate organizations that belong to the Municipal League. And there's several of them there, but the more active ones is that I attended was the Airport Management Group. And as we get through this, we had some information that came up about what is happening on the state legislature level and the state government level with what's happening with our airports, and especially their trust fund. This is who is the Municipal League. They were organized in 1934, and what they do is several items there, and I'll just tick through a few of them here. They're problem solving. They do also publications, and the South Dakota Municipalities magazine is the magazine that we get once a month. And if you get an opportunity to kind of peruse that magazine, they've got several interesting articles each and every month on that. The other one that's very interesting for me is the state and local relations. And then a little bit on the national affairs is that we as South Dakota Municipal League are a member of the National League of Cities. And I believe we'll have a presentation on that in the coming weeks from the attendees to that conference or summit that was taken in San Antonio. This is the library that the Municipal League has, and again, the long list of items that you can take a look at and see what's available. But right now, we as the City of Rapid City are going through some conversations about home rule, and the Municipal League has got quite a bit of a library put together on like 10 cities within the state of South Dakota that are on home rule, so that we can use them as an example. And I think there's some other things of interest on there. Texting ordinance is another one that came up for me, and something else that we talk a little bit about, but don't get very deep into it, is the youth and labor. We also have to be very concerned about child labor laws, and the Municipal League helps us out in that, plus all of these other items that we see on this list. The next slide I have here is the policy committees, and primarily what they do is get together in August to go over the several hundred different policies, and there's also some core values that they or core beliefs that they have as well, and we'll get into that in a second here. But then in August, they go through all of these different policies, and they've divided them up into the different categories: the general government, public health, safety and welfare, public works, taxation, and revenue. And it gives a little bit of a synopsis about what these different committees are working on. This gives you an idea of how many policies there are, and divided up by the different categories. And for example, the local, for me again, the local control and home rule, since we're kind of looking at that, you can find them in the let's see, I've got the August magazine of the South Dakota Municipal League called South Dakota Municipalities. And on page 42, we can get into all of these ideas that they're talking about with local control and home rule. So public health and safety winds up this category with a grand total of 137 general policies that we look at and review in August, and then we get a summary of just the primary changes that we did in October. And I want to mention Joel Landine was a big help for us for the one of the liquor issues that was taking place that we had questions on in that August meeting. And then the core beliefs are all essentially what the Municipal League really believes in and what they stand for. And as you can see, they got 79 of them, and I've tried to put each one in the different categories of what they work on. In the general presentations, what we got to watch or view is Jared McIntyre, who is quite the economist here in the Black Hills, and we're really privileged to have his expertise. And he gave us a little bit of a presentation on the pitfalls that happen with sales tax, and we've been hearing that about what's happening with the with our latest budget rounds. And he gave us some other additional ideas that we can look at and discuss, but it's going to take a statewide effort to change the state taxing laws. Social media was another one that was heavily discussed, but it ultimately wound up to be a general guideline from each city that actually how they do it within each city. And primarily where that comes from is the next category is the social media. That was really complicated discussion about how much each city has to, it almost takes a full-time person to look at all the social media that's out there just to monitor what people are saying, and then it is urged the council members or the legislative body to be very cautious about what they introduce into the social media. And then they also encouraged us in the next category is to work up policies for our social media. And again, it covers all the way from the issues of dealing with the First Amendment and to what is abusive and what is proper and what is appropriate. And then the open meeting requirements and social media. It kind of opened up another, for me, it opened up another can of worms, is that the social media be getting into the open meeting requirements. And there's more things that have to be worked out on that. So, we got more of a primer on that general category. And then lastly, this is how to be a good defendant and how to avoid it altogether. Basically, just be careful what you say and be cautious of it. And primarily, the way I took it away from this information is do your best not to offend anybody. And in today's world, it's really challenging to try to avoid that. And then if you need some more information, in fact, you can go onto all these links and see the entire slides of the presentation. No narration goes along with these slides. And I just wanted to capture a couple of moments here on this, is that our airport manager, Patrick Dame, got his recognition for serving out as leader of his organization and his group. And Pauline made that presentation for him. And then one of the things that stood out for me in that conversation with that group was how the state government balanced their budget using the trust funds from the airports, plural, all of the airports in South Dakota. So, and I visited with another state representative to discuss that item with him, and he's got a whole other version of what that means and why they did it that way. And then in the middle slide is Pauline receiving the Gavel Award for nice job. And now she gets to frame it downstairs someplace. Hopefully, we'll all get to see it and view it. And then on the right side of this slide here, you get to see Pauline in action there. And she did a lot of announcing and presentations, and here's the next speaker. So very active as the president, now past president. And then just want to introduce you to people who have this significant role in the leadership of the Municipal League. As you know, Pauline Sumption is the outgoing. Mike Wendland, who was the previous president, who Pauline replaced the year before. And then Debbie Hausman is the current president of the South Dakota Municipal League. And if he stays in line, in line for ascent into the process, the mayor will be the next president of the City Council. And again, if you've got any questions about what we've got going on with the Municipal League, I'd be happy to share some. And then, as you know, we've got a lot more people in the room right now that have a lot more experience and expertise in what is happening with the Municipal League. But I'll sure be happy to answer any questions if there is any. That's it for me. Thank you very much. Hopefully that will give you some curiosity for the next South Dakota Municipal League. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Richie. Moving down the agenda now, we have general public comment. And this is a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda unless it's placed on the agenda by a unanimous vote of the city council members present. We have one speaker request form tonight, and this is from Manjot Singh, Manjot Singh, and Lacey Poole from AmeriCorps.
Hi, yeah, so I'm Lacey.
I'm Manjot.
We are from AmeriCorps NCCC, which is a government-funded program. And basically, we are young adults from 18 to 24 who travel around the U.S. and do community service for different organizations. Some of the different service areas that we focus on is natural and other disasters like floods or earthquakes or anything like that. Infrastructure improvement like building houses for Habitat for Humanity. Environmental stewardship, so it's more focused on the environment, like taking out invasive species. Energy conservation, like installing different lighting that's more eco-friendly or different things like that. And urban and rural development, which is like working with like disabled population or with different schools and whatnot. And yeah, we are currently now working with Black Hills Works with the disabled population there and helping them with any tasks we need or they need. And yeah.
So in terms of who can apply, we accept applications from like national and nonprofit organizations, federal agencies, schools, Native American tribes. In the past, we've worked with Black Hills, of course, we're currently working with the Black Hills Works, and we've also worked with Habitat for Humanity and many other organizations. The application process is pretty simple. You fill in a form, and then that'll determine whether you get a secondary application. Once you complete that, you'll get like the final word for it, and then it's pretty simple. It's a free program for the organizations who are interested. We provide meals, transportation, and basic personal protective equipment. All you need is to provide lodging and a kitchen for the team that's coming in to help you. And yeah, so we have forms and stuff for any organization who might be interested. So if you are, please come see us afterwards, and we'd be happy to provide more information.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now to non-public hearing items, items 2 through 33. There are no speaker requests on these items, so we'll go right into consent items. Consent items tonight will be 2 through 29. Does the council wish to remove any of these items? We'll go to Darla Drew.
Item 19.
John Roberts.
21 and 31.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion from Lewis and a second by Armstrong. Oh. Okay, just 21 then for John Roberts.
29.
Okay, so we have a motion by Lewis and a second
by me.
by Armstrong to approve the consent items with the exception of 19 and 21. All in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And item 19, authorize Parks and Recreation Department to harvest 250 deer for the 2019-2020 season. We'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. And I see Jeff is approaching the podium, so he knows I have a couple questions for him, if that's okay, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Jeff. I noticed this number is down this year, so what does that mean? Our deer count in the city was overall down a little bit?
Well, actually, last year we were authorized to take 250, a maximum of 250. We ended up only taking 226 due to the weather, due to the lateness of the season and such. But no, this is actually the same number that we were approved for last year.
For some reason, I thought it was 300. Okay.
We had 300 a few years ago, but
Okay.
we are down a bit.
It's a delicate subject,
It is.
but I just needed to ask that question. And then this is always done by people that are trained and prepared to do this kind of work for us in areas that are away from any neighborhoods or things like that, correct? So it's
That
very
is
safe.
correct, yes.
Okay. I guess that's the only questions I had. So what time period will this happen again?
We will begin right after the holidays, probably just the very early part of January, and probably takes about 4 to 6 weeks,
Okay.
and it'll be done late at night.
And just so everybody remembers, the meat goes to?
Correct. All of the meat will go to a processor where it will be processed, and that meat will be given to Feeding South Dakota.
And those costs are covered by?
Well, a majority of the costs for this program are covered by the Parks and Recreation operating budget. However, we do receive a $1,000 donation from Black Hills Sportsman, and we receive it up to $8,000 for additional processing above and beyond the 150 deer by the Sportsmen Against Hunger.
Thank you very much. That's the end of my questions.
Okay, can we have a motion for 19, please? Motion to approve by Drury and second by Lehman. All in favor of that motion, John Roberts? All in
Thank you,
favor of the
Mr.
motion?
Mayor.
John Roberts.
Sorry about that. I don't think this is that sensitive of an issue, but I had a question for you, Jeff. First of all, I want to thank you for this program, and I hope you get the one that I hit a week ago Friday on West Chicago. So, but anyway, I'm curious, this 250, does that take into account the possible bow hunting that's...
No, that program is completely separate from this. That's a program that's being administered by the State Game Fish and Parks Department, and that's a separate, the bow hunting thing's a separate program
Okay,
from
good.
this.
And I'm glad to hear that because I didn't want to, I was hoping maybe we get a few more than 250 with as many of them as there are in Rapid City right now. It's just getting kind of out of control. So anyway, thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval of 19. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now on to item 21, approve the reconsideration to authorize the mayor and finance officer to sign the professional services agreement for the 6th and Omaha Street pedestrian and bicycle crossing study and 6th Street Promenade Corridor Master Plan with Felsberg, Holt, and Yulvig in the amount not to exceed $125,097. We'll go to John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I wasn't, unfortunately, at the Public Works meeting on Tuesday, but I did have a few calls on this from people that were upset to see it coming back after they thought it was killed once before. I still am not in support of this. I just wanted to voice that, and I also wanted to, you know, I find it interesting how quickly it came back. Usually we give it a little bit of a dust off before it comes back this quickly. But anyway, like I said, I'm not in support of it. All the calls that I've got from people, I'm still waiting for one of them that does support it. So, but that's just people, in my ward that I've talked to. Thank you.
Okay, Brecky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. May I direct a question to Mr. Young, please?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Mr. Young. I just have a couple questions. I know we had some further information provided to the council on this issue. Could you just tell me, even if we do the study and it comes back with several options, we're not locked into anything that the study provides, are we?
That's correct. I think that one of the main things is, just as you point out, that this is going to give us options. We do have ultimately before us a situation that we will need to ultimately replace the crossing that is there now when traffic continues to increase. We want to study those options. We can't just say, we'll wait, because things will get worse as we go and they will get more expensive. The study includes a lot of components, including the entire plan for that corridor and the fact that it's paid largely through federal transportation funds that cannot be used elsewhere. I think there's a lot of reasons why we're deep into this. We need to take that step.
And the city's only responsible for 20,000, what's the exact amount of this?
I don't have that exact amount in front of me, perhaps.
Or percentage, 18%?
Yeah, it's
About 21,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 21,000.
So it's budgeted, you have it in your,
Yes.
your community development budget?
Yes.
Okay.
And the federal transportation funding has been approved through the transportation program, so.
Okay. And so I guess I just want to reiterate again that no matter what the study comes back with, no one is locked into any of it.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, I yield.
Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting this, but I do have one question for Ken Young, if I may. Ken, when you're developing this, and we didn't really go through this last time, but you guys, you and Sarah Hansel gave an excellent presentation at both Public Works and Legal and Finance that explained so much more in depth this project. And I think what people fail to realize is, and maybe they do get it, but just in case, I want to emphasize that this is the entire 6th Street corridor. We're not merely looking at just this crossing or promenade or whatever. So could you expand on that a little bit?
Yes, that is correct. So the entire 6th Street corridor is what that area identified between the Performing Arts Center, the old high school, all the way up to the Civic Center, that facility that we're putting a lot of money into. And so we want to continue to increase that connection to downtown, from both sides into downtown. So we have some concepts that we would like to flesh out further to improve that entire corridor as it goes through the park, as it goes southwards to the high school. But of course, a key component of that would be, how do we improve a crossing over Omaha Street? There are difficulties and problems with that now, and it will only get worse.
So do you think that this promenade, if we go through with these improvements, will actually bring more people to spend money in downtown? Because that, you know, in my estimation, that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish. So by making this more walkable and more pleasant to look at, right now it's not much, will that kind of benefit our city more for sales tax and those kinds of things?
Absolutely. This is all about downtown. That's why we're doing this. We're trying to find those things that the city can do to improve our downtown. And by connecting our Civic Center, which we're only going to increase more traffic and business and dollars in that area, if we can encourage them through better connections to come into downtown, to park here, walk over, or park there and walk over, so that they're not scared to do it one way or the other, so that we have a better connection, so that the Civic Center is a part of downtown, not just a separate facility over there that you have to hop in your car to get across, or run across when you're taking your life in your hands, or you're going to wait 5 extra minutes until the traffic finally slows down for you. Another problem that we've seen with that scenario is that when there is a big event, when those people do make that crossing, we're having vehicular traffic backup problems. And that is why SDDOT, the Department of Transportation, does support us looking at an alternative to the crossing there, because they are concerned about what happens when that vehicular traffic backs up on Omaha when the pedestrian crossing is in use.
As we should remember, this is a highway. So, and also I'm very interested in this for conferences, because I think it'll make it very easy for people that are staying for long periods of time or attending events at the Civic Center for 4 or 5 days to make it to our downtown and really be able to enjoy the amenities we have there. So thank you. That's the end of my questions.
Chad Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to reiterate the reason that I'm supporting this, and the reason I think the public needs to understand is, it's been stated kind of not directly necessarily, is we're going to eventually lose this crossing. We don't have control over that. We don't know when that will happen, but it does depend on traffic counts. I'm correct in all saying. I'm not just getting head nods. Just, yeah. So we don't have control over when this DOT will take it away, but it will, and so we better be prepared before that happens. So just making sure that's clearly stated and understood. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion to approve this. If I
Okay,
get
we
a
have a-
second to retain the floor.
Yeah, we have a motion by Nordstrom and a second by Armstrong. Go ahead.
I'll take a chance on running this thing again, because I really strongly believe this is a worthwhile project to take a look at, and especially the options. But if I can ask Mr. Young again to reiterate something for us?
Yes.
Mr. Young or any member of your staff, who I think for me, the most important or critical piece of this information that we have to take a look at is the DOT letter that we have in our packet. Can you explain that or summarize that letter that the chief engineer from out at the DOT wrote to us?
Yes, I could do that. I'm going to defer to Kip Harrington, who's very well-versed in this, so I'm going to let him take a minute with that.
Good evening, Kip Harrington, Long Range Planning. So we have an agreement with the South Dakota Department of Transportation that states that this pedestrian crosswalk is a temporary improvement. So DOT is constantly monitoring the corridor on Omaha Street, which is also South Dakota Highway 44. And when traffic levels get to such that their level of service deteriorates due to that crossing, where either the pedestrian crossing traffic backs up through 5th Street intersection, or the turning lanes to get onto 5th Street have back up enough that it would be hindering that pedestrian crossing, they have every right to take that crossing away at their discretion. And so it's up to the city and the city's expense to either remove or relocate that crossing or provide a different facility. And so like Mr. Young said, we're trying to get ahead of this. We're trying to be proactive rather than reactive. So when that day comes, we have a plan in place so we know what we need to do.
Thank you. And another question for either Mr. Young or Kip, please.
Yes.
I'll start off with Mr. Young. To further elaborate, that it isn't just the crossing here, but it all goes down to the Performing Arts Theater. And for me, another area of interest is the new building or new structure that will be going up at 6th and St. Joe. Can you help us explain a little bit more about that? Because I think it's another added amenity that we will have for downtown.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to understand some of the concepts that we've already put together in our conceptual plan. Sarah Hansel's been very instrumental in preparing that. That is attached to your agenda. Has identified several key locations in that corridor between the high school and the Civic Center that could be improved and used as part of an improved pedestrian corridor, as well as increased gathering locations along that corridor. One of those key locations that we have already spoken with the developers of this 6th and St. Joe project that is just getting underway. They're very interested in participating in this planning process to create a gathering plaza, perhaps not as big as Main Street Plaza, but something smaller that would be a plaza that we could use and connect with the other areas that we're trying to accomplish, so that this corridor, this 6th Street corridor, is a destination. It's not just a pathway. There's going to be, we've planned several improvements that could happen in the park, something that could perhaps happen close to the city offices, then the 6th and St. Joe development then be on the side of the library. We've spoken to the library. They've got some land there that could be utilized, and we've spoken to the school at the end there that they could perhaps help us create a mini plaza there so that we could have something that would be beneficial with public art installations, a lot of different improvements and benefits. So it really is the corridor. We're not talking just about the crossing. But to make that corridor effective, we need a good crossing over Omaha.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield my time back.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve item 21. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, motion passes with 2 noes, Lehman and Roberts. And that takes us through consent. Now into non-consent items. Under item, starting with item 30, under ordinances. Second reading, ordinance 6372, an ordinance to amend chapter 10.48 of the Rapid City Municipal Code relating to parking during snow removal. We'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for Joel Landine, please.
Okay.
Hi, Joel. As I was looking through this new ordinance or the changes here, it came up to what the fine would be, and it used to be a $25 fine, at least as I interpreted it. And there was no fine then that was listed there. Is the fine going to be at the discretion of the city, or depending on the offense, or is there an actual fine in mind for these cars?
I didn't draft it, so I don't know what the specific fine is. My guess is that they pulled it out and put it into the other fine and costs, or that would be the plan. So I would have to look and see what the fine was going to be. But yeah, I would say if it's a violation, there's going to be a penalty if you don't comply with that.
I would think so. But
and I feel pretty confident in saying it's going to be at least the previous of 25, if not more.
I just don't want to see it be too punitive. You know, I mean, we're looking at people with maybe limited access to get to their cars in certain situations. So I would just like that defined before I can really support this. So thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Lewis to approve and a second by Roberts. All in favor of this motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries with 1 no. Item 31, second reading, ordinance 6371 regarding supplemental appropriation number 8 for 2019. We'll go to John Roberts, I assume.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask a finance officer a question on this one?
Please.
Pauline, I just have one question. I would just wondering if you could clarify that 710,000 under 4269 miscellaneous supplies and materials. What was that for?
That's for the parking meters and the pay stations.
Okay. Okay. I had somebody that asked about that, and I wanted to clarify it.
And there's also some software between the 760 is the software for the enforcement, for the meters themselves, to take the credit cards, that type of thing.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, need a motion on this? I'm sorry? Okay, motion to approve by Drury. Second by Richie Nordstrom. All in favor of approval of item 31, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 32, first reading, ordinance 6373, an ordinance amending sections of the Rapid City Municipal Code relating to city cemeteries. Motion to approve by Modrick. And a second by Lance Lehman? Yes. And we'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you. I have a couple questions for Jeff Biegler on this one.
Okay.
I thought it was fascinating when I got to be on council and realized that the Parks Department indeed takes care of our cemeteries. So that was a learning experience for me. So this is to define perpetual care. Is that the main thing that we're doing here?
Oh, actually, we are amending the section that pertains to the sale or purchase of lots. It used to be we would provide the person who purchased one or more lots with a certificate of purchase, which also included in that one document provisions for perpetual care. What we're doing now is they will be issued a certificate of deed for each individual parcel that they purchase, and there will be a separate certificate of purchase for the perpetual care part of it. And this is something that one of our assistant city attorneys, Kinsley Grote, had noticed in state law, and so we are just making that correction now.
So will there be a significant increase in the certificate cost for perpetual care?
No, we don't see any real significant increase in any costs or anything. It's really just a paperwork cleanup.
Is this to help us when, people, the generations to come, we don't have any way of getting any type of care for those headstones or whatever when we have to reset them wherever they are in the parks? Is that to help us with those costs?
Right. The perpetual care will ensure that the cemetery will be maintained even after all of the lots are sold and there's no longer any revenue coming in from the sale of the lots. There's still this money in a fund that will be available to maintain the cemetery in perpetuity.
Thank you. I yield.
There was a motion, correct? Yes. Okay, yes. Motion on the floor is to approve. Yeah. Sounds familiar. Well, the motion is to approve. All in favor of approving item 32, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Going down to item 33, alcoholic beverage license application renewals, and there are 24 items. The police chief has informed me that all of these have passed the scrutiny and are ready for approval tonight.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve Roberts, and a second Lehman. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now on to public hearing items. '34 through 37. There are no speaker requests, so we'll start with item 34. Oh, these are consent public hearing items, 34 and 35. Motion to approve from Armstrong, 34 and 35, and a second by Drury. All in favor of that say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, non-consent public hearing items, 36 and 37, starting with 36. Second reading, Ordinance 6368, and ordinance amending Section 17.06 of Chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Renner Associates, LLC, for Lilac Flowers, LLC, for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to Light Industrial District, for property generally described as being located southwest of the intersection of North Plaza Boulevard and Wesleyan Boulevard.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve Lewis, and a second by Drury. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 37, second reading, Ordinance 6363, a request by City of Rapid City to consider an application for an ordinance amendment to allow for accessory dwelling units in residential districts by amending Title 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. Motion to approve by Lewis, and a second by Lehman. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the executive session. I'm told we have a need for an executive session tonight to consult with legal counsel regarding proposed or pending litigation pursuant to South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, subsection 3. Motion to approve going into executive session by Armstrong, and a second by Drury. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are in executive session.
You got 3?
Thank you. Seems like it took a long time. No, you're right.
Okay, so just print another one? Or?
Yeah, I can put one right now if you want.
Thanks.
so I went back and. That we had that had. I'm almost glad we did drop.
shelter just to say, I bet. So then when he came back, he said, "Do you mind if you would just open up the door?" I said, "I just open up." Sure enough, there he is behind. You know, he said you called it doggy jail. Remember the doggy jail? And the thing is, once we got him fixed, it's like he stopped run out. Have a good night. You too. And it was really changed.
Yeah, we have to write information. He would have to go accept the dog food off from the shelter, and he was just like, that dog food, but he would pick up the lab. And then I decided, if I would bring the pugs in, because everyone had told me, like, is it cold out? And I was like, I'm gonna bring that pug in, and I would try to, and I bring the pug in, and the other one would bark, or, you know, they would get mad very bad, until I finally ended up bringing the bigger one, but it was the odd couple.
cleared out, even the media
Hey, Daryl, have you seen Jim Gilbert around? Okay.
Back? Are we back, Michael? There we are. Okay, we had Richie Nordstrom make a motion to come out of executive session, and did someone second? Laura Armstrong seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we are now in regular session again, and my understanding is there's no action needed from the executive session. Okay, so the next item on the list is item 38, the bill list, and we'll go to Finance Officer Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $9,257,761.29.
Motion to approve by Roberts and second by Armstrong. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to adjourn, Armstrong, second by Drury. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned, everyone.
Thank you.